You are watching Xirtus.
Also, weird how the JFK stuff only gets good after AI gets good. You know, what do you think about this? Is this just a coincidence, or is it because now we could look through the documents, or is it now because we can like make all this amazing fake photorealistic document? Is it
Because
all
it doesn't
really real
matter
stuff?
now. Like,
But yes.
I mean, that you could say the same thing happened because of with the UFOs. Like, basically, UFOs became like a thing pushed onto us because all of a sudden there's thousands of AI UFO videos.
Mm-hmm. True.
I
That
think
is
that,
also, yeah. Oh, sorry.
well, I think that there's like an upcoming change in the way information is analyzed, and when you're in a vacuum, the few voices end up getting all the space. So the best counter attack for that is to just inject as much noise into a system as you can. So as if you can inject a whole bunch of UFO noise, now all of a sudden the only things that might have been out there making echoes are a lot harder to trace. You gotta sort through so much. It's like a Gish Gallop logical fallacy almost.
Yeah. Isn't it kind of weird that the UFO thing and the JFK thing have been so closely connected somehow?
We already know. We've been through this.
And Bigfoot.
Right.
Don't forget Bigfoot, right?
Well, I mean, look at the video from Barely Human 11 on Roswell and the JFK assassination with Back to the Future. Like, there's something to it.
Oh, well, there's the thing that there. Okay, so the day that JFK was killed, there was actually a nuclear test, and its code name was the Greys.
That's right.
Like, when the president's been killed, right? All other military actions have been suspended in mourning of the president, and there's continuing to have a nuclear test.
Right.
Code name is not Gray or Grays, the Greys. It's really
yeah. Word. I hate to just kind of do this.
A measurement. And the gray is an ionizing radiation dose.
Are we talking A or E? Because there's a stark difference between the two.
Right.
It might have been the Gray. What is that? Go back to that. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so gray or gay, which is also pretty fucking funny, by the way, is the ionizing radiation
the anal
dose.
Probing gray, the anal probing gays.
Sorry, just something to this.
South Park.
It's actually defined as the absorption of 1 joule, which is pretty gay.
One
radiation.
Joule. No,
You're 24 gays.
Yeah, I mean 50 Shades of Gay, you know.
So that was the day and year of the first screening, which was a pre-screening of Dr. Strangelove, which was canceled because of the assassination. So I just worth pointing out with the nuclear connection that movie ends with basically like full-on nuclear fallout, right?
Yeah,
well,
I don't know.
With the premise being, isn't it funny how the JFK stuff comes out and everything else comes out when AI starts getting good? But as far as I know, none of the massive AI systems will really take off their bumpers for any plebeians. I'm sure behind the scenes, someone's got a God code where it won't lie and it won't check all these weird little parameters. It'll just be like, who killed JFK? And it'll just be like, blurm, and it'll give you like all the stats on it. But right now, they all have so many filters that prevent that from occurring.
Well, the Gray Sports Almanac has to be brought up, of course, for this because 1950 to 2000, right? And I don't know, this has been on my mind a lot. I wanted to bring it up anyway. I don't know where I have. Yeah, Eric Stoltz, all scenes Back to the Future. Don't note to self, I'm pushing this. We don't have all the footage, and they do, and that is, I think, we have a gap in the Eric Stoltz Back to the Future race, and we need to catch up. We cannot have the Hollywood Soviet Union have control, have Eric Stoltz supremacy. So what I'm hoping is that, Thomas, we can work on this. We basically need to recreate some of the scenes of the Eric Stoltz Back to the Future. But what's interesting is, of course, we all know this, that originally they shot the whole movie. It's like normally a movie takes 28 days to shoot. They shot for 5 weeks with Eric Stoltz. And then they told them in the 4th week, we're going to be replacing him. We're going to shoot it all over again, which everyone on,
which was an ideological issue, right? He had an ideology that they didn't resonate with, or his take on the film. Do you know more about this? I can't remember.
I've never heard that.
Oh yeah,
a lot of interviews about this, and I don't know if there was anything other than the fact that they just didn't feel like he was.
No, I can tell you exactly what it is.
They thought he was like mature.
I'm going to put the Back to the Future glasses on this one. No,
so I listened to a lot of Crispin Glover too. You know, Crispin Glover had a huge ideological problem. He had multiple things that he had crossed them on the original, because he's not in the second one. When they go to the future,
right,
and he's upside down, that's an actor who's using.
What an impressive casting they did to make that guy look like he's.
Well, that's why Crispin Glover sued because they used his face. They had done scenes for him to be older in the first movie, right? So they had taken death masks of Crispin Glover. So the actor's wearing prosthetics made from the face of Crispin Glover.
Wow, the pre-CGI.
He sued him. It was a big problem. Yeah. Like Crispin Glover is a rabbit hole of an individual. We've talked about him with Hot Tub Time Machine and everything like that. But
but before we do Crispin Glover, let's bring up why Eric Stoltz was replaced. Is actually pretty clear. One of the things you talked about, an ideological difference. He couldn't see the movie as a comedy. He saw this as a tragedy. And he said it was a tragedy because he'll never see his family again.
Right.
He's going into a new world order. That originally the original plan was it was going to be like 2015 in 1980. There would be flying cars and it would be Metropolis in 1980s because he fixed the world so much from this one interaction. And he said, this is crazy because I'll never get to go back to my home. I'll never meet my mother, my father again. And I'm never going to see my room again. But the thing about his mother and father and why it's interesting, because we have all seen the Back to the Future movie and we don't realize how many of the scenes actually are scenes of Eric Stoltz. For instance, this is Eric Stoltz's foot.
Okay.
Eric Stoltz is pushing. There's a lot of really important scenes. Eric Stoltz. I'm not kidding.
It's weird because so in like there's multiple timelines going on, right? It's like a multiverse, and in one multiverse, you have Eric Stoltz and you have Marty as J. Fox, whatever. Michael J.
Fox and Eric Stoltz are
whatever. It's Michael J. Fox. You put respect on
his girlfriend changes, right? Because his girlfriend is no longer the other one. It's Elizabeth Shue. Right. And it was weird because that was also like when you were a kid, that was another recasting that like slid up underneath the radar. Like you didn't originally know. You're like, oh, she looks different, but I thought that was the same girl. And then you realized, oh, wait, they changed the actresses. So
it's a huge deal.
There's like,
it's not just some sort of it's not that they're too cheap to get this girl. It's not that she wasn't available for the part. She is a different version of his girlfriend.
Right.
And this is not an accident.
Same girlfriend. It's like you can't step, and it's weird.
But it is the same girlfriend. It's just a multiversal difference.
Right. It's where
there's a different paternity for Michael J. Fox's character. I think we can prove this right now. Because if you look at Back to the Future, oh man, this is great, by the way. I just had to.
No.
That's ridiculous.
That's Super Grover getting involved.
It should have been funny if it was like there was a guy on the current. There was like a Muppet with the black umbrella.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
God. I want to find the scene right here where he's looking at his father, right? And you can see the original version of it here. He's looking at his father. So the scene where he punches Biff in the face. So there's a scene where in the original Back to the Future, you see him punch Biff in the face. Marty McFly, cut from Marty McFly to Eric Stoltz's fist. It's Eric Stoltz's fist that's punching him. I think it's really important. So my perspective on this.
No, this is good. This is gold.
My perspective on this is that the original movie, and this is why the whole movie exists, even though we haven't seen the whole movie, is that originally Marty McFly is Biff's son. So the way it works is Biff has been sexually assaulting since high school the mother of Marty McFly.
We know this. There's evidence for this.
There's total evidence for this. And eventually, it leads to her having, if you've got, this is her virginity is stolen essentially by this guy at the prom night. It's only because this more assertive character emerges, right? And when Eric Stoltz gets involved and this leads to the punching, all of a sudden now this Crispin Glover character, who's so influenced by Eric Stoltz, right? He says, no, Biff, you leave her alone. And he does the whole punching of the face. And the punching comes from he's seen his son punch Biff in the face. So he's learned it can be done. Biff can be punched in the face.
Right.
In the movies.
And this completely changes the timeline because after that, he has, I mean, when has in the first Back to the Future, Marty McFly ever had a problem with being called chicken? Never. There's never been a problem with it.
Right.
However,
it was a total like retcon.
It's a retcon in the sense that now that his father has become an assertive guy, this is the life struggle. This is the only pathos of Crispin Glover's character. His dad's probably always told this new version of Marty McFly, you don't ever be a chicken. Because that's like your mother nearly got hard because I was being a chicken. I will never be a chicken. I learned how to overcome it. You don't even start down that road, which creates this whole thing where he's constantly afraid of being called a chicken because his father told him, don't you ever be a chicken. Right. And I think that's the beginning of this new version of the character. This is also interesting because it's a political metaphor. There's a Freudian thing going on here. But remember the John F. Kennedy street and who the hell is John F. Kennedy and who's Biff, right? Biff is Trump.
Who the hell is John F. Kennedy? John F. Kennedy Lane?
Right.
Yeah.
And so John F. Kennedy's only laned or named for the lane after this whole incident happened. So John F. Kennedy wasn't president in that timeline, which is interesting because in the Back to the Future 2, you see that Ronald Reagan isn't the president. Nixon is the president, and he's on his 5th term. And the Vietnam War is to be ended in 1985. So we're living in a completely different timeline where the Vietnam War is still happening and Nixon is still the president.
That's how Doc says, ask Marty who the president is. And he says, Ronald Reagan. And he goes, the actor? No, I know you're full of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's completely shocked by this timeline.
Nobody had
Totally. So everything is being, and they were being replaced by actors. So, and then you see, of course, in the Back to the Future, when he's buying the Gray's Almanac, there's a head that's the bookend for it's John F. Kennedy's head, but
it's in the window with Roger Rabbit, by the way.
Let me see if I can find that really quickly. But it's not his whole head. It's the bust of John F. Kennedy, but it's cut off right where John F. Kennedy shot in the head. Let me see if I can.
I think this is in Barely Human video, by the way.
Joe's stuff you're looking very deep.
I'm pulling it up right now because he's got the seat right there. So you can see right there behind the S is John F. Kennedy's head, and it's a bust that's sliced right where John F. Kennedy's head is assassinated, right in the shot where the shot's supposed to have gone through the back of his head.
And you said Roger Rabbit's in this scene too?
Roger Rabbit is in the window too.
He's in the window
Roger Rabbit, in my mind, he represents Roger Rabbit represents alternate physics in different dimensions.
Lee Harvey Oswald, because who framed Lee Harvey Oswald? Who framed Roger Rabbit?
Dude, I've been tripping out on it, dude. So like with Roger Rabbit, because Roger Rabbit, the whole thing with the I just saw this whole thing on how Chinatown was admittedly taken to be the basis for parts of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So like it's crazy. There he is, but
there's a Jimmy Carter right next to it. There's a peanut, but isn't that the Carter mask like that you see from like Point
definitely Carter? It said trust me.